Good morning. I'd like to call to order the July 1st, 2010 meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. And would you please rise with me as we do the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This morning we're going to start, as we do each meeting, with citizen communication. And this is the time when people who wish to speak on non-agenda items may come forward and speak for 3 minutes. I have one person signed up, and if you'd like to sign up, you can fill out a blue card with the clerk, Mary Rathke here, and Les Poole. You are welcome to come join us. You could start with your name and address for the record. That'd be great, and you have 3 minutes. Welcome.
Good morning, Commissioners. Les Poole, 15115 Southeast Lee, Milwaukee, 97267, Oak Grove, part of the tree ordinance, but that's not why I'm here. We'll keep working on that one. Today's July 1st, start of the fiscal year. I'll bet if you called 200 voters, you couldn't get 20 of them that knew what that meant. And that's because most people don't understand the budget, don't understand the fiscal year, and don't understand that the significance of what you folks are doing, which I'm not here to question, that's not my point, but the significance of what we're doing with our money and where we're going to be a year from now is just troubling everyone. We had a budget committee, or a budget hearing. The budget was passed. I was pleased to see some changes made that will help stem the bleeding. It's not the county's fault that we're in trouble, but certainly if the county continues to plan ahead and understand that the state and the federal government in this big circle are going to be cutting projects, cutting funds in the future, and you're going to have to continue to do what you did recently, and that is try and really address how do we save dollars and how do we get the public involved up front so that at the end of the hearings, when it comes budget meeting times, we don't have people like Paul Savas asking questions for information that he should have had readily available in his fingertips long before we're talking about spending $600 million. Interestingly, at the budget meeting, the arts community was here. There was probably a few other folks here. And at the tree ordinance hearings, the room was full. One of the reasons is real simple. It's called outreach, transparency, letting people know what's really going on. The involvement with the tree ordinance, regardless of whether you support it or not, was great. I saw more of my neighbors, I saw more interaction, and I saw a hearing that had the annex room full. The hearing could not be completed. Chair Peterson left. Commissioner Leininger took time out from patching my street to finish the meeting. It was continued to the 28th, where there was more input. The reason I'm saying that is that was an evening meeting, as was the meeting on the 8th. So my whole point in this is that rather than have the public feel left out, let's work on moving our meetings, because you saw a perfect example of more citizen involvement, regardless of the outcome.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Poole, for coming in. Okay, now we are on to the first public hearing of the day. And with us to discuss this is pertains to dog licensing and dog services modification to the Clackamas County Code. And with us, we have Scott Seco, representing our Clackamas County Council's office, but perhaps we do not have Scott Seco. All right. With great anticipation, we welcome Scott Seco to the front of the room to talk to us about dog licensing and services code amendments.
It was quicker than I thought. I apologize.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Commissioners, we are here today for the second reading of ordinance number 052010. This ordinance amends Chapter 5.01 of the Clackamas County Code and pertains to the dog code. This is, by way of background, the code was last amended relating to dog services in 2004, and staff and county council have been in coordination and have recommended that the code be updated now in 2010. I believe the BCC has considered the issues at a study session on May 4th, 2010, and has recommended the second reading take place to adopt the ordinance. In addition, some of the important changes that are taking place in the dog code include allowing multiple dogs to be licensed with a single license when they're owned by the same person. It creates a new violation for a failure to have a rabies vaccination. There's now a violation for failure for an owner to fail to meet minimum standards of care for their animals. It adds a provision in the code about allowing conditional release of the animals from impoundment, which would be something similar to a probationary release in the criminal justice system. Didn't exist before. And it also clarifies dog bite reporting standards. So those are some of the main changes in the code, in addition to just a number of housekeeping kind of clerical changes.
Okay.
So based on that, I'm happy to answer any questions, but staff would recommend that you approve the ordinance at this time by a reading of title only and amend the county code.
Does the commission have any clarifying questions for Mr. Seco? I actually have a question.
Sure.
In my experience, just in my community, we have a dog. A lot of people are unclear on whether or not, if you live within a city, if the county dog licensing requirements apply concurrently with any city licensing requirements. Could you speak to that, please?
Sure. I believe the state statute provides that if the city has its own licensing program, then it would be exclusively the city's licensing program that applies. And also Diana Hallmark is here, and she can correct me if I'm wrong here. But to the extent that when the cities do not have their own program, then it would be the county's
Great.
program that applies.
Okay, Commissioner Bernard.
So you opened up a question. What cities have their own?
And that I don't know off the top of my head.
Any-
Perhaps Ms. Hallmark could answer that question for you.
Thank you for joining us. If you could introduce yourself and take a seat and answer the question, that'd be great.
Good morning, Commissioners. Diana Hallmark, Clackamas County Dog Services. In our county, the cities that manage their own licensing program is the city of Westland, the city of Lake Oswego, and the city of Happy Valley.
Okay, then I have an additional question.
All right.
So do they also have facilities for dogs, or do they drop them off at ours?
We provide the sheltering for all jurisdictions in the county.
So do those cities pay a fee for for sheltering?
Yes, actually, we do have intergovernmental agreements with those 3 cities that are specific to the sheltering process, basically, to the provision of the hotel.
Great, thanks.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else? All right. I'd like to announce this as a public hearing. So if anyone wishes to speak, now is the time. I see no one coming forward, and so I'm going to close the public hearing. And I'm going to ask for a motion to read ordinance number 05-2010 by title only.
Chair Leininger, I move we read ordinance number 05-2010, amending Chapter 5.01, Dog Licensing and Services of the Clackamas County Code by title only.
Second. It's been moved by Commissioner Austin and seconded by Commissioner Lehan. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion is approved. Ms. Rathke, could you please read the ordinance by title only?
You bet. This is ordinance number 05-2010, an ordinance amending Chapter 5.01, Dogs Licensing and Services of the Clackamas County Code.
All right. I will now ask for a motion to adopt the ordinance.
Okay. Chair Leininger, I move we adopt ordinance number 05-2010, amending Chapter 5.01, Dog Licensing and Services of the Clackamas County Code.
Second. It's been moved by Commissioner Austin and seconded by Commissioner Lehan. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion is approved. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Seco.
Thank you.
Now we are on to a board order regarding the scope of election for annexation of portions of the city of Damascus into the library district of Clackamas County. And I'd like to invite Mr. Ken Martin and Chris Story from our county counsel's office to the front to talk to us about this matter. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is the first step for you, but probably about the 4th step overall in a process to allow for the consideration of annexation of the city of Damascus into the library district of Clackamas County. We have received a petition full of signatures, as well as the endorsement of the Damascus City Council requesting consideration of annexation. This is the first hearing where you, sitting as the governing body of the library district, can approve or disapprove of this petition to annex into the district that you govern. If you approve, we would hold a second hearing to allow additional input on that decision and to allow a remonstrance process for the scope of the election. In that case, right now, if you approve the petition, the election would occur within the city of Damascus only, because the city of Damascus meets certain statutory requirements as far as its size relative to the size of the district. If there is remonstrances, however, there could be an election throughout the entire district on the annexation question as well. But that would be only if you approve it here. We have with us Ken Martin, our boundary expert, who's reviewed the application carefully and provided you a report that is publicly available and can answer questions, either he or I, that you may have about the process.
Thank you. Does the commission have any clarifying questions? Commissioner Bernard.
So county elections cost a certain amount of money. Is this area sufficient in size to accommodate the expenses that are required for an election?
Well, the question of election expenses would be up to the city. The city is the one that places the measure on the ballot for the city. If the election, we receive sufficient remonstrances and the election occurs for the entire district, it would be the district's responsibility to pay for the election expenses for the remainder of the existing district to vote on the election question.
Thank you.
Okay, this is a public hearing, and I have a few people signed up to speak. And I'd like to call up to the front first Mr. Jim Bennett and Mr. Peter Leet. So please come forward. And Mr. Bennett, if you'd like to begin, that'd be great. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes on the clock.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. I'm Jim Bennett, the City Manager of the City of Damascus, 19920 Southeast Highway 212, Damascus, Oregon 97089. 2 years ago, when the library district was initially considered and then an election was held to create the district, the city of Damascus was, I think, preoccupied at that time with preparing its first comprehensive plan, and the idea of the need for a library was probably a long way off. There is no library currently in Damascus, and the prospects for building one is probably a number of years off. So at the time, the city made the decision not to participate in that election. Since that time, both I and the City Council have received numerous inquiries from residents of the community concerned about their access to library services and potential for the city to build a library at some point within the city of Damascus. What the council determined was that they felt it was important that the citizens show a certain level of grassroots support for the idea of joining the library district and supporting library services for the community. And a grassroots group did get together and, working with the city, put together a petition to join the library district, to bring the city into it. And that was favorably received by the city council. So they have expressed their endorsement of that petition and their endorsement of the idea of placing the matter before the citizens of Damascus to vote on, yay or nay. The way we have it set up right now, that should probably occur at the general election in November of this year. So my role here is to represent the city and to express our support for placing this measure on the ballot and to urge the commission to consider that favorably and move forward to the next step, the next hearing, and eventually concluding, hopefully, with placing the matter before the voters.
Thank you. Mr. Lee?
My name's Peter Lent, 9142 Southeast Kingswood Way in Damascus. And I'm one of those fortunate ones who have the flexibility, as a previous speaker mentioned, of coming to daytime meetings. And I know there are a lot of other supporters of library services for Damascus who would wish to be here today but have employment and other details to deal with. My wife and I moved here about a year ago from New Mexico, where we lived in one of the 10 poorest counties in the western United States. So we thought that when we were coming to Clackamas County that we would be coming to a town and a county with good library services. So I guess the politest way I can put it is we were dismayed to find that we had no access to library services in the city of Damascus. And so we immediately joined up with the group which Mr. Bennett mentioned, which is supporting library services for the town. And I'm here as a member of that group, but not making an official statement for that group. We see right away the difference in when you go into Gresham or Milwaukee right now. Parents are in there signing their children up for the summer reading program. As far as I know, there's no such opportunity in Damascus. Senior citizens of Damascus are lacking library services. They don't even have public transport to get them to a town where they could use the library if they could afford to pay the fee, which is required to pay right now if you go to Gresham, for example. We live right outside of Gresham, but there's an extremely high fee, which Multnomah County imposes on us because Damascus, as far as I understand, because Damascus has no reciprocity agreement. So senior citizens are suffering as well. And I understand, reading recently, that even during the Great Depression, very few public libraries closed in the United States. But here we are in a relatively well-off town and county in this country with no library services. So I'm urging this commissioners to do whatever you can to help us on the process, on the way to getting some sort of library services. As Mr. Bennett said, we're not expecting a library to be built next year, but at least we want to make some moves towards using available library services in the county. And also, I don't know much about it, but just take a second to urge you, if it does come up to your purview, the issue of reciprocity with other libraries. Damascus is a very large town in terms of its geographic area, and a lot of citizens like us live closer to Gresham than we do to the center of Damascus. So we need reciprocity with other library services. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lent, and thanks to both of you for coming in. We have another person signed up to testify, and that is Linda Verdurn. If you could come to the front, please, and give your name and address for the record. We're delighted you could be here today.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'm Linda Verdorn. I live at 22905 Southeast Naomi Court in Damascus. I've been a Damascus resident for 34 years, and up until 2 years ago, I enjoyed library services throughout Clackamas County and their reciprocal counties of Multnomah and Washington. Now, however, I do not have any library services unless I pay individual prices for each county to use their services. I'm here to speak in favor of placing that option to join the library district so that voters in Damascus can vote one way or the other. As a librarian myself, I am certainly more convinced of the importance of access to library services, but that's not the issue here. The issue is just giving us a chance to vote whether we want it or not. And I think that that's the importance of right now. And we have followed our process outlined by our city council. We turned in the petitions with 3 times the names that they requested. We have talked to the library, the board about, their getting their approval to join the library district, and now we just need to have it placed on the ballot so that citizens can vote one way or another and have some say that this is not decided for us just by our city council. Margaret Mead, who's a noted anthropologist, she once said that to never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. Now, we would like that opportunity to change our little corner of the world so that we have library services as well. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. Before we move on, I'd like to note that during this public hearing, we're sitting in our capacity as the library district of Clackamas County, the board of the library district of Clackamas County. And so with that, let's see, I believe we are ready to ask for, we closed the public hearing. Yes, we're closing the public hearing. And now I'd like to ask for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move we approve the board order regarding scope of election and annexation proposal of portions of the city of Damascus to library district of Clackamas County.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Bernard and seconded by Commissioner Lehan. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Austin.
Thank you. Just a question and a comment. So if we pass this, will this end up on the November election?
The process is if you approve it as the
this.
governing body, we will schedule a second hearing. We've tentatively scheduled that with Mary for July 29th. At that point, you can receive remonstrances, and then you would issue your final approval to order it placed on the ballot. And then the city of Damascus would prepare the ballot statement and explanatory statement, and it should be sufficient time to get on the November ballot.
And that's what I meant, just basically would it make the November ballot? So if everything goes according to plan, good.
Right.
And I just wanted to mention, too, that this is a similar issue that the city of Tualatin dealt with just recently. They went through this whole process and were able to see their citizens approve the annexation into the district for their 3,000 residents in Clackamas County that also live in the city of Tualatin. So that was successful. So this is sort of our second time through, so we're probably getting a little bit better at figuring out all the ins and outs of the process and procedure. So I'm happy we're at this stage, and I just feel badly that it's going to take more than a year to see a library built in Damascus, but hopefully this whole process will work through successfully, so this would be wonderful. Thank you.
Is there some negotiation required to come up with an agreement similar to the one in Tualatin, or is the agreement that the other
Actually, this probably went smoother in the sense that Tualatin has an existing library that's in Washington County, and they were seeking to have some of the property tax revenues generated within Clackamas County returned to the Washington County library system. Here, Damascus entirely within Clackamas County. The revenues generated would be used to support the libraries within Clackamas County that the residents could use. And it would also enable the sharing of library services. We have an agreement with both Multnomah and Washington County for the use of libraries by our residents with them if they are within that same library district.
Thank you.
I'd like to note that I had the pleasure of being in the office when a group of residents of Damascus delivered the signed petitions to our office, must have been a couple of months ago, and what an exciting moment, and what a demonstration of community commitment and great organizing around a cause that people really believed in. And I'm just happy to see that people who've worked really hard have been able to harness apparently some strong community support for this concept, and that you've made it past that milestone, and you're on to a new milestone today. So thank you for your service to all of us by being engaged in what's going on in the community. Any other comments? All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion is approved. And there will be a second hearing on this issue on July 29th, 2010, per Mr. Story's comment at the board's regularly scheduled business meeting. Thank you. Next, we have a discussion item. This is related to the Department of Transportation and Development, and I'd like to ask Mr. Bill Garrity to come forward and walk us through this item.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
My name is Bill Garrity. I'm representing the Department of Transportation and Development. Address is 150 Beaver Creek Road here in Oregon City. What we have today is the transfer of jurisdiction of a portion of Clackamas River Drive within the city of Oregon City. We have a resolution from the city requesting that transfer. We've published a notice for 4 consecutive weeks in the Oregon City News and in the Clackamas Review. And this transfer is consistent with our policy of working with the cities and trying to provide the best services that we can provide in the easiest, most direct fashion. The city is involved with the Oregon Department of Transportation and Development to realign the intersection of Washington and Clackamas River Drive with Highway 213 to facilitate redevelopment of the old Rossman site. And this is all part of that deal.
Well, very good. Thank you. Does the commission have any clarifying questions? No. All right. This is a discussion item. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this? Apparently not. Okay. Thank you. And so now I will ask for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the board order accepting a transfer of jurisdiction from Clackamas County to the city of Oregon City for a portion of Clackamas River Drive.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Lehan and seconded by Commissioner Bernard. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion is approved. Thank you, Mr. Garrity.
Thank you.
And now we are on to the consent agenda. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Bernard and seconded by Commissioner Lehan. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion is approved. All right. Now we're on to Commissioner Communication. Commissioner Lehan, would you like to lead us off?
Yes, I would be happy to. I really don't have any further business. I would just like to wish everyone a very happy 4th of July. Please try to be safe over 4th of July, both driving and in whatever recreational activities you might partake in. And with that, I'm fine to be through.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Austin.
And I would like to do the same thing. I'd like to wish everyone a very happy, fun, and safe 4th of July. I know just about every community around will have a parade and a fireworks display. So please be safe and partake in all those activities. And we might even have good, warm weather by the 4th, too. So enjoy. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I would also like to wish people a happy 4th of July. There's a lot of parades in a lot of the communities. I hope you participate. As a former mayor, it was always nice to have a lot of people standing on the side watching you march through. So have a great 4th of July. Thank you.
Right. Well, here's to a warm weekend. And I also just want to take a moment to salute a couple of the people who've done tremendous work for us recently. I see Maureen Thompson in the audience here. There was, on the theme of patriotism, there was a tremendous event at Clackamas Community College this last Saturday at which 3,100 returning servicemen and women and their families attended a jobs fair and an education and service fair. We had over 100 employers and 150 employers and roughly 100 service providers and educational resources and senators and lots of elected officials, and we were expressing our thanks to the servicemen and women who've served our country and our desire to help them find jobs, reintegrate into the community, and move on to their next chapter. And it was exactly the kind of community spirit that I think makes me feel great about this wonderful time of year with 4th of July. So thank you to everyone. We will have a scroll of events coming up in the next weekend. As we close out the meeting, Administrator Steve Wheeler, would you like to make any comments?
Only to note, as we said at the beginning, we do start a new year this year on July
right.
1st, so that's exciting. And while it's been a difficult economic situation, we're hopeful for better times, and we are tracking what's happening with the state very carefully. I want to reassure everybody about that.
Thank you. County Council, any comments? Okay, great. And with that, there's no further business, it appears, and so I close the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.